welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 84th episode, our guest is me. My first solo episode of the podcast was episode 41, and the second was episode 62. I am a 6-time award-winning journalist whose work has appeared in print, radio, online, and television. And I just found out that I'll be adding at least 1 and maybe 2 more awards to that tally at the 2017 Hoosier State Press Association's Newsroom Seminar and Better Newspaper Contest Awards Luncheon on December 2nd at the Indianapolis Marriott North. I am currently city editor, opinion page editor, and editorial board member at the Kokomo Tribune, and starting November 6th, I will be starting a new job as managing editor of the Indiana Lawyer. I have previously worked as a reporter at WFHB, Times Mail, The Reporter Times, Ukiah Daily Journal, Ukiah Valley Television, and NUVO Newsweekly. Oh yeah, and I'm also the proprietor of this very podcast, The Rob Burgess Show. And now, on to the show. Alright, so welcome to the third edition of the Rob Burgess Show, in which I will be flying solo. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I have a lot of things happening lately, and so I thought this might be a good time to check in and do another solo episode. The last time was when our daughter Emerald was born, and it will be 5 months since then on Tuesday, which will be Halloween. And that is an amazing fact to me because it just seems like the time has just flown by. She has doubled her weight from when she was born, so she's growing rapidly. She's outgrown every piece of clothing that we have for her already, and just keeps getting bigger. She's talking a lot now. I mean, she's not saying like whole sentences or anything, but she definitely knows how to say mom, mommy, mama, but I almost think the word mom is a word that emerged because it's something that, babies say for a reason. So, but I do know for a fact, because I have witnesses, that she also said daddy at least once, and I've convinced myself and maybe others that she said it then and maybe other times too, but I do know for a fact that she said it that one time because it was very clear, and she was looking right at me and she said daddy, so I'm gonna count it either way. So, but yeah, everything's going really well with her. Harper's doing well, of course, and he's really excited about Halloween coming up. He is going to be Batman. She's going to be Superman. She doesn't really know, of course, what Halloween is, but he's definitely caught on to the whole concept, and he's very invested in the trick-or-treating and the gathering of candy. We don't let him have much candy because, I just feel like giving kids of that size sugar, really adults too, if we're being totally honest, is kind of a recipe for disaster. We found a new donut place not too long ago near our house, and we made the horrible mistake of giving him a donut on more than one occasion, and we've since learn to steer clear of that because the results are not pretty. So, but anyway, he's doing really well. Probably going to sign him up for some activities so he's not going stir crazy, especially during the winter months coming up here. You don't want to get that cabin fever going, especially since he's so active and so full of energy. So we'll be looking into that. But yeah, he's doing well. Ash is doing well. Of course, you've heard her on the podcast recently. And so yeah, let's get right into it. So the first time I did one of these solo episodes, I took you through my professional biography from when I started out doing my school newspaper when I was in high school, all the way up to present, where I'm working at the Kokomo Tribune. So I should probably pick it up right there, because that's where the story of today's episode begins. So since March, to recap, since March 31st of 2012, I've worked at the Kokomo Tribune, and when I was hired at the Kokomo Tribune, I was hired as night editor. And that means that I would, put the paper to bed at night. I worked Wednesday through Sunday. I have the same schedule now as I did then when I started. I'll get in in the early afternoon, stay until the evening, send pages over, talk about what the reporters have coming, put the budgets together, mark up the dummies of the pages, what they're going to look like, work on the layout, get things on the website, edit stories, the whole deal. In addition to that, of course, I wrote my weekly column, which came out every Wednesday, House of Burgess. And so that's something that I've done at several newspapers. I've done that at the Martinsville newspaper I worked at, the Reporter Times. I've done that at the Ukiah Daily Journal in Ukiah, California. So I did that. And then, of course, I did it here at the Kokomo Tribune. So it's something I really always have enjoyed doing. And it's fun to have that free space of, even when I was, also a reporter, doing that on the side and writing about things that weren't on my beat, and just giving my take on things. And that's always been fun. So I did that pretty much just the same as when I started, for about 2 years there. So until cut to June 27th, 2014, that is when I joined the editorial board. So that meant that in addition to doing the job I was hired for, which was night editor, I also was writing my column on top of that, the House of Burgess. And then I would also, starting when I joined the editorial board, write editorials for the opinion page. And that meant, of course, as anyone who knows what that entails is, it's a collaborative process. It's a shared byline. You use the editorial we instead of I. It's a shared opinion. It's not just your opinion. You have to collaborate with other people, which that was great. That was a really good, change of setting for things I was writing. I still to this day, of course, am part of that and enjoy doing that. It's a different kind of writing. I like it. It's fun to do, and it's kind of the larger voice of the paper, shall we say. So that's something I've enjoyed being a part of. So since June of 2014, I've done that. So cut to July of 2016, and then I also, on top of that, so I'm now the so let's see. I started out as the night editor, doing my night editing duties, writing my column. Then I joined the editorial board. I'm also writing editorials. And July 29th, 2016, I became the city editor. So that meant that I had a little more responsibility, and that was a bump in title. And then if you cut to a few months later, I became the opinion page editor February 2nd of this year. So that meant I was completely in charge of the opinion page. So before that, I had been doing my column, which appeared on the opinion page, and writing editorials, which of course also appeared on the opinion page. But then when I became the opinion page editor, that was all me. I'm taking everything in. I'm taking letters. I'm taking columns and putting things on the page. I'm deciding what goes there. So I've been doing that then. So over time, my title has taken on some more words. So I have several slashes in my title by this time. So I am the city editor / opinion page editor / editorial board member. So all those things come together. Meanwhile, before this job, I was not an award-winning journalist, and I think I touched on that briefly in my first podcast where I did my own solo episode. That was always something I wanted to achieve, because that was a hump that I had felt like I had not gotten over. That I felt like I was really proud of my work. I was always felt like I put everything into my work. I feel like this is my calling. This is what I'm meant to do. But I just didn't have those credentials that, I felt like I needed to have to be, on that plane where I wanted to be. So All right, so my first award that I won, and these are all awards, and I'll go through the differences, of course, because there are nuances to all this. But first award I won was in 2013. It was the first place award for Best General Commentary, Division 5. Division 5 is the size of newspaper you are. Kokomo Tribune is the second highest in circulation of category there, so that's what Division 5 means. In the 2013 Hoosier State Press Association Foundation Better Newspaper Contest, which is the state's, as it says, press association, so the club of people that are journalists. So that was big. It was a first place award. It was for my commentary, so it meant for my columns. I got a plaque with my name on it, and that was exactly what I wanted. That's still the header on my Facebook page, so I was very proud of that. Next year, 2014, I then won that same award again, but for the second place. I didn't come in first. I got second. So I didn't get a plaque that time. I got a certificate, which is still great. Not complaining at all. I love my plaque. It's one of my most prized possessions, but second place was fine too, because I already won it once, so I'm not greedy. I don't need to win first place every year. Second place is just fine in that, especially since I already won first place. But so 2015 rolls around. I actually won 2 awards, and these are staff awards, but I count them as awards that I have won because I wrote stories for them. This was the first place staff award for Best Multimedia Package, Division 2 of the 2015 Associated Press Media Editors Journalism Contest, and the first place for Best Special Section, again for Division 5 in the 2015 Hoosier State Press Association Foundation Better Newspaper Contest. So those were both for a special section that we did, and I contributed one of the main stories for. It was a special section of called 1 Year Later. And in November of 2013, we had a series of devastating tornadoes in Kokomo, and we decided to work on this larger project to commemorate, as it says, 1 year later, and how people were recovering from that, because we were denied FEMA aid. We had to do a lot of the recovering on our own in Kokomo, so, we talked to people that, had gone through it, had rebuilt their lives. We made audio and video and photo presentations. We did a whole thing. So that was 2 awards, separate awards for the same thing in 2015. So that was a collaborative award, but I had a pretty integral part in making that happen, in that I recorded the interviews that was used in the multimedia package, and also wrote one of the main stories in that package. So anyway, 2016, again, another Hoosier State Press Association award, this one for second place Best Ongoing News Coverage. All right, so that one was for a very sad event. In Kokomo, we had a sheriff's deputy by the name of Carl Kuntz who died in the line of duty. He was shot serving a warrant after dark. His partner was also hit but didn't die. He had a very young son and a wife that he left behind. So that was just a devastating event for the community. It happened on a Saturday night. I was working on the Saturday and the Sunday. On the Sunday, I collected stories from our readers about, what their recollections of Carl Kuntz. So talked to people that knew him. We collected their stories. I collected their stories and put that part of our front page coverage of that. So it was again a staff award that I had a very integral part in. So 2017, this year, of course, rolls around, and we won an Indiana Associated Press Media Editors Journalism Contest Award for Best Spot News Coverage. That was third place, but it was for Best Spot News Coverage because another set of tornadoes came through Kokomo and devastated the area again in roughly the same area that had happened before. There was a Starbucks that I frequented by the mall there down by the highway that just completely blew over due to the quick thinking of employees, not the least of which a man named Angel Ramos. He piled everyone into the bathroom, which was the only part left standing. If you go on my website, thisburgess.com, you can see that I have an embedded video of the Starbucks going down, and it was a frightening event, and it's really amazing that no one was even seriously injured. No one was seriously injured in that tornado, even though it was just, how can anybody survive that? So I wrote 2 stories to go along with our coverage of that in the couple days following that. So that was part of that. So during my time at the Kokomo Tribune, to this point, I have won 6 awards that I will claim on my own. I don't claim other people's awards, and if there's something that the whole staff did in general, I'm not going to put my name on it. But if I feel like I've earned it, or if my name is actually on the award, especially, that's mine. So those are my individual awards. The staff awards that we've won are also just as numerous. We, in 2014, won the first place for Website of the Year. The Kokomo Tribune did. I am one of the administrators of the website. I felt like I had a pretty integral part in making that happen. So that was a staff award that I was part of. But again, I don't count that. I say I'm a 6-time award-winning journalist, and that's not one of the ones I count in the 6, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm still proud of that, but, it's not that I wrote a story and it was honored. It was just something that we all did, and I was just one of the people that did it. So 2015, we won the 2nd place at the Hoosier State Press Association for General Excellence. That's one where if you win enough awards tallied up, that you win another award. So that's kind of interesting that you have an award for winning awards, but we were we were all awarded for that. We had a 2nd place award for Best Online Site Web Page. So again, our website was honored by the HSPA. In 2016, we won the Best Digital Presence Award, 2nd place for the Indiana Associated Press Media Editors Journalism Contest. And again, we won another General Excellence Award for the Hoosier State Press Association, 3rd place for that year. So again, those are ones that, just for general excellence, we are generally excellent at the Kokomo Tribune, and I am part of that general excellence. So it wasn't for any specific thing. It's just kind of a general thing. So that's been something that we've been proud of. Actually, that CNHI editorial contest, that first staff award I mentioned, came with a large trophy goblet, if you will. It's pretty impressive. There's a picture of it on my website. But anyway, to sum it up, to this point, I've won 6 individual awards, and then 5 staff awards, which I was a part of. So anyway, so I'm very proud of that. And I don't mean to rattle on, because I'm sure this is not as interesting to anyone else besides me, but I really, I don't have a degree in journalism. My degree is in elementary education, as I believe I mentioned in the first podcast that I did by myself. So it was very important to me that I do that. Okay. Anyway, so that's all out of the way. So that brings us to right now professionally. So I am very excited to announce that starting on November 6th, I am starting a new job, and I will be the managing editor of the Indiana Lawyer, which is based in Indianapolis, and it will actually be a shorter drive from where I live in Noblesville here. So I commute an hour each way to Kokomo from where I'm at currently, and when I start this new job, I will actually not be quite as far away, so that'll be nice. And I will have a different schedule. So I mentioned I worked in the afternoons and evenings, Wednesday through Sunday currently, and now when I start my new job, I will be working more of, Monday through Friday, regular business hours type deal. So having kids, that will be such a big relief, just based on, Harper especially, he just gets up at 5:45, 6 a.m. every day. So if I have to be up that early anyway, I may as well, be on a regular schedule, because getting home late and then also getting up early is it's hard. So that'll be a great change for us. I'm very excited about the new position. I won't be doing opinion, which is interesting since I've been so steeped in that lately, but this is more of a return to my roots, because I do have a pretty strong background in straight reporting, and actually just started that. The opinion stuff was kind of a side thing, and then it became my main thing. So now it's something that I'm getting back to, and I'm very excited to get back to that. And I've always been interested in the law, so writing about legal stuff legal cases is going to be really interesting to me. So it's a natural fit for me in a lot of ways, and I'm super excited. So I'm really grateful for the last 5.5 years I've had at the Kokomo Tribune. I've grown a lot professionally and personally. I feel like it was a great opportunity when I got it. I was so happy to get that job, and I'm just so grateful for all the people I've met there and all the things I've been able to do. I'm really proud of the writing I've done. I've updated my website, thisburgess.com, to reflect all the, stories and columns and editorials I've written, so you can peruse that at your leisure. So that's what's going on with that. And that was, so yesterday, today is Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday when I put in my 2 weeks notice. And Thursday, today, I found out that I, along with my coworkers, Kelly Lafferty Gerber and her husband, Carson Gerber, have won some more Hoosier State Press Association awards. And then also the Kokomo Tribune won a staff award for best news coverage under deadline pressure. So more awards coming our way. At least one, maybe two for me. So one individual one for sure, and then I'm not quite sure what the best news coverage under deadline pressure. Although I can guess probably to do with those tornadoes I mentioned. So I'm really excited to find that out. We'll find out on December 2nd what exactly we won, because what they do is they send out a letter and they just want to confirm that your name is spelled correctly, because they're making up the plaques and awards and certificates and that, and they want to give you time to respond. So that's what they did. They just said that these are the people that won, and I was one of them. So I'm super excited about that. December 2nd, I will find that out. That's when the awards luncheon is. So that's what's happening with that. So I think that brings us up to date for me professionally. Now, the first time I did the podcast on my own, I went through all the episodes, just kind of gave a brief synopsis of each up to that point. So that was episode 41. So I'll just start with episode 42 and just give a quick rundown of some of the great episodes that we've had here on the Rob Burgess Show. So episode 42 was John DiDomenico, who is, of course, the Trump impersonator, who is the voice of Donald Trump on Trumpcast, which is where I heard him first. But of course, he's Trump many other places. He's great. Episode 43 was the 6th episode with Jonathan Fowler. Great guest, of course, as you'll all know, regular guest, most frequent guest. Episode 44 was Sean Spicer, who was our very first guest. That was his 3rd appearance. Episode 45 was Michael A. Wood Jr., his 3rd appearance. Episode 46 was Stephen Hayden. That was a really good episode, talking about musical feuds. So episode 47 was a special one because Mallory Willits, who was actually getting married very soon to her husband Wisdom, although they already are married, they're doing a stateside wedding. This was where she went to Ghana to go retrieve him and bring him back to America. And she recorded some audio files for us on her phone while she was there. And that was kind of a really special, audio collage episode. So that was a lot of fun. Episode 47. Episode 48, of course, another episode with Jonathan Fowler. Episode 49 was the president. I think she's now no longer the president because there's a new president, but she was president of the Society of Professional Journalists, of which I'm a member. Lynn Walsh, that was episode 49. Episode 50 had John DiDomenico back. Pretty interesting conversation there we had, especially about Alec Baldwin's impersonation of Trump. He had some pretty interesting thoughts about that. Episode 51, Jonathan Fowler again. Episode 52, Ryan Wegner. He is a really cool guy who has a really cool service. He's got a startup called called Autumn. They do audio versions of articles that are in many well-known magazines, and it's a really clever service that they got there, and I see they're expanding all the time. Episode 53 was Lewis Moore, this historian and professor, talking about sports history, black athletes throughout time. That was a really good episode. Episode 54, Dr. Elizabeth Yuko. She's been a great guest. Episode 55, for any of the serial fans out there, Asia McClain Chapman, you may know her name. That was a really good episode. We'll have to have her back. I think there's been some developments in the Adnan Syed case, and we should definitely catch up about that. Episode 56, Jonathan Fowler again. Okay, so episode 57, yeah, this is a pretty significant one. Rachel Dolezal. You may know her from the controversy surrounding her ethnicity or professed ethnicity. But yeah, you probably know her name, and you probably don't know quite as much as you think about her, unless you've listened to that episode or read her book, which is what I was doing before I talked to her, that was a unique opportunity. I'm glad I got to talk to her. Episode 58 was Ash Burgess, of course. That was her 5th appearance. Episode 59, Robert Dunham from the Death Penalty Information Center. The death penalty is a really interesting topic to me. So he is somebody that can really give a lot of detail on that, and he was a great guest. Episode 60 is David Carson, Pulitzer Prize winning photographer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That was a really good episode. We talked a lot about Ferguson and a lot of the other kind of hairy situations he's been in. Episode 61, Lynn Walsh again, talking about press freedoms and all the things surrounding that. Episode 62 was, of course, my second solo episode. That was where Emerald was born, and I took the recorder with me and recorded some things. Episode 63, Ash Burgess. That's where Ash came back and kind of talked about Emerald's birth, and we kind of went through the details blow by blow for that one. Episode 64 was Jonathan Fowler again. Episode 65, Jared Yates Sexton, Hoosier-born writer that's gained some prominence writing about Trump and Trump rallies and whatnot. Really, really good guest, really good writer. Episode 66, Sean Spicer again. Really, really good episode with him. Always a good episode with him, but that one especially kind of touched on a lot of things about his new job, so you'll just have to listen to that one for the details. But Episode 67, Alexei Kovalev, that was a really interesting one. He is a Russian journalist, so we actually communicated over the computer on that one while he was in Russia. So that was a really interesting insight into what it's like to be a journalist in Russia. So you should check that one out if you're interested in that. Episode 68, John D. Domenico came back for a third time. Episode 69, Erica Roman. She wrote a viral blog post about Patton Oswalt and him becoming engaged after his wife's passing. And she's just a really good guest and a good writer, and she's a widow herself, and she brings her own experiences to that. So good insight into someone else's life. So. Episode 70 was a big one. That may be our most popular episode to this point. Sarah Kensinger. You may know her from, she's been all over the place, but MSNBC, she's on a lot. She's a great writer, really sharp thinker. Really, she gives you a lot to think about, I'll put it that way. A great episode. So, like I said, most popular episode we've had so far for a very good reason. Episode 71, Michael A. Wood Jr. was back for the fourth time, the former Baltimore police officer, former Marine. He's always got something interesting to say. Episode 72, another big one, another of our most popular episode, Rick Wilson, the GOP ad guru and never Trumper. So really unique perspective from inside the Republican Republican Party. Episode 73 was Elizabeth Greenwood. She wrote a really interesting book about death fraud. Episode 74, another Jonathan Fowler episode. Episode 75, another episode with Lewis Moore. Lots to talk about with him, of course, with Colin Kaepernick and, what's happening in the sports world as far as activism goes. Robert Dunham, again, came back for episode 76. Episode 77 was another Ash Burgess episode. Episode 78 was another Jared Yates Sexton episode. We talked about his book that just came out that was really good. Episode 79 had Erica Roman back. Episode 80 was another huge episode with Sarah Kensinger. Just, another really insightful hour that we spent there. Episode 81, Dr. Elizabeth Yuko came back. These last two episodes, episode 82 with Ash and Jonathan, that was special because we had all lived together before, and Jonathan was back in the States for Korea. So we got a chance to kind of catch up in person as opposed to over the phone, and we did a joint one with Ash and Jonathan and me all together, and it was just all, like old times, and it was a lot of fun. So that was a special one for me, and I know that they had a good time with that one too. Episode 83, it's another one we recorded with Jonathan while he was in the States, and that was again another live episode as opposed to doing it over the phone. So that was another fun one. So that brings us to this episode, which is episode 84. So that catches us up on that. Super proud of the podcast. I'm so thankful that everyone's listening and liking it. It seems like it's growing. It's getting a bigger and bigger audience. If you haven't already, please subscribe on iTunes. Please rate and review it. It really helps. iTunes is screwing up with their popularity thing, because I used to be able to tell which episodes were being listened to the most, and lately it's just been going haywire. I don't know if it's because they did their iOS update, or they got the new iPhone coming out, or what's going on over there. But please still subscribe, still do the star ratings. We have 5 out of 5 stars so far. I want to keep that going. Please put more. Really helps us out, helps other people find the podcast. I'll put it in the credits at the end, but if you want to support the podcast, of course, there's the Patreon. You can do that. Please follow us on Twitter. Go on YouTube. We have a subscription that you can do there. If we get to a certain number of subscribers on YouTube, we can do live streaming. I think it's over 100 that you have to have. Anywhere the podcast is available, like it, subscribe it, rate it, review it, comment, engage. It all helps. Even if you don't, think it does, it really does, just because of these algorithms, how they do. But another thing I did on the first solo episode is I went through the Pandora on my phone, and that was interesting because Pandora is kind of a mishmash because you add things and then you forget about it. So I went through the Pandora I had on that phone, and I have since come into the possession of a tablet. And because of that, I had to start a new Pandora app and new Pandora account. So I had to create some new stations. So this might give you a little insight into what we've been listening to lately here. So let me grab this up. And keep in mind, I have also not figured out how to delete any Pandora stations on this. We always talk about music, or at least I try to, at the end of every episode or during the course of the episode at some point. So this is my way of kind of letting you in on my musical taste, since I interrogate everyone else about theirs. So first entry is 4th of July radio. Now, I think we, of course, added that in the run-up to 4th of July, hoping that there would be some music that we could have to go along with it. It was really kind of hit or miss. I don't know. America, the band, I don't think I added that on 4th of July, but, of course, I really like there's a couple of America songs that I really like, mostly because they've been used in TV shows I've like The Sopranos and Breaking Bad. So I added that. Barrington Levy. Of course, I'm a huge reggae fan, so that was a natural choice. Bob Marley. I think I've had Bob Marley stations in every Pandora I've ever had. Busta Rhymes. Rediscovered that a little bit. Jonathan and I used to listen to that in high school and college. Creedence Clearwater Revival. Of course, I think I have that on, again, every Pandora I've ever had. Dean Martin, that's good chill music for, especially having dinner. LP, one half of Run the Jewels. I've become a huge fan of his. Frank Sinatra, again, in the Dean Martin vein, kind of having the classy dinner. George Clinton. Yeah, you can't sleep on George Clinton. Too much funk there. Gorillaz, one of my favorite bands. Hathaway, of course, I love that "What Is Love" song, and I'm secretly I like that whole Euro pop sound. Hanson, that's an interesting one. Yeah, very very poppy, very very listenable, very of my youth especially. So got some nostalgia with that. Harry Belafonte, another kind of chill, hanging out music. Hot Boys, what can I say? I came up in the near South, which is the southern Indiana is the near South. When in a certain time period, and you're not going to get away with not listening to a little Cash Money. James Brown, a lot of funk there. John Mellencamp, like I said, I grew up in southern Indiana. What are you going to do? Johnny Cash, of course, that's another staple. Kid Rock. Oh yeah, I think I even mentioned that to Jonathan, and he did the same. But it's like I unironically like that whole not early, but of my early listening to in the 90s, Kid Rock. Couldn't get away with him. Devil Without a Cause was a monster album, and it was a huge part of growing up for me in Mitchell, Indiana, and it's going to be hard to get away from that. Morris Day, of course, I love Morris Day, love Prince. Oasis, another staple. OMC, another staple of my childhood. How bizarre. They have some other hits I didn't know about. Operation Ivy, which I never listened to because I never really liked the logo of, which didn't really make any sense, but I've really grown to appreciate over time. The musicianship is great, and they have really good influences and just really catchy songs. Peter Tosh, he's become one of my favorite reggae artist and maybe favorite artist in general, just his clarity of lyrics and his bravery of subject and just his musicality and it's all the whole package. Petey Pablo, again from the youth, Raise Up. Prince Radio, which was interesting to me because when Prince died, I had a hard time finding any streaming Prince because he was very anti-sharing music on the internet, but when he died it suddenly became available. Imagine that. Tenor Saw, another late great reggae artist. The Coup, political hip-hop outfit from the Bay Area. Boots Riley, genius lyricist, great funky music behind it. The Minutemen, a band that really doesn't work for Pandora, kind of like Operation Ivy, because they really need to be heard in totality of their setting as far as albums go. It's not really something you can mishmash up and have it make sense a lot of times, like Double Nickels on the Dime. The Minutemen album really should be heard all at once. It really shouldn't be split up like that. Toots and the Maytals, again with the reggae. Trick Daddy, that's another kind of throwback rap station. Van Halen, I love Van Halen. I can't deny it. And then I have Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, and then just straight up Ziggy Marley. So I really must have wanted to hear Ziggy Marley one day. So anyway, I had to create some new Pandora stations for a new device, so there you are. Again, a mishmash of influences and some things I wish I could delete, but there you go. So I think that's pretty much everything I had to say for this time. I think that pretty much catches us up to current. Again, super excited about the new job. Very thankful for you all listening to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm looking forward to putting more of these out, getting more great guests in, and yeah, engage any way you can with it because it all helps, like I said, with getting it out to people that don't know. And if you know somebody you think that might like the podcast, great, let them know. And, I feel like the podcast is one of those podcasts where you don't have to listen to every episode if you don't want to. My feelings won't be hurt if you don't. But, find the ones you like. Find something you're interested in. I try to keep it broad. I'm a generalist on this. I have a lot of interest. I go all over the place. I don't just have one theme. I respect podcasts in a certain way that have a very rigid theme and they try to stick to it. And if you like that thing, then you're golden and that's gravy. But, my mind just goes so many different places and there's so many different people to talk to in this world. It's hard to constrain yourself like that. So, pick a subject you're interested in. I guarantee, I've probably touched on something you haven't even thought you were interested in. And the person's just interesting like that. So anyway, that's all for now. I'll be back with you guys next time. And thanks for listening. Peace out.
If you enjoy this podcast, there are several ways to support it. I have a Patreon account, which can be found at www.patreon.com/Rob Burgess Show Patreon. I hope you'll consider supporting in any amount. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast everywhere it's available, which includes iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Facebook, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, and RSS. It really helps. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgesshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. Until next time.